You know those drug commercials and all that fast talking you get right at the end with that laundry list of side effects it leads up to and includes death half the time, and maybe you have to pay your firstborn and lose your favorite dog? Yeah, all that scary stuff. It's crazy, right? I don't know about you, but it seems to me that stuff is about as bad as whatever that ailment is that the drug is supposed to be treating. Anytime you can, it's always better to find a natural alternative, because natural alternatives tend to have minimal side effects. So the question is CBD any different? Does CBD have side effects? Today, we're going to dig into that, so let's go find out. What's up, my friend? Welcome to the CBD and You podcast. And yes, you means you, and I believe you are here for a reason. I'm Lori, a Christian, a wife, a mama, and a midwife. And to put a little icing on the cake, my husband and I own a hemp farm in Tennessee. Girlfriend, I see it in your eyes, and I feel it in the messages you send me. You are tired of waking up every day exhausted with aches and pains that you really thought you were too young for. And with all the stress and anxiety of the day, you're over it. Are you starting to wonder if this is really all life is? I hear you, and you are not alone. God did not design us to just survive. He designed us to thrive. So if you're ready to embrace this beautiful life God has given you by discovering some of His best gifts for His children, rewarm that coffee you forgot about in the microwave, and let's take a minute to pour back into you with a quick chat and some me time. Let's go. I love God's creation. I love enjoying it. I love looking around at the beauty of it. And one of the most beautiful things in God's creation is that most things that we need are available, and most of those things that we can get from His creation don't have the nasty side effects of artificial man-made things. But that's not 100% true. We live in a fallen world. Things don't always come here for our good anymore. Ever since sin first entered the world back in Genesis 3, we've had a mess on our hands. We also all have different body chemistries that is often altered from how God intended them to be due to our choices and things around us in our environment. Sometimes it can be due to nutrition or maybe the lack thereof. Maybe because of toxins in our environment, things we get in through our skin, through our food, through our water that are toxic to our body and cause them not to work optimally. Sometimes it might be due to medicines, combinations of medicines, things like that alter maybe our gut chemistry or other aspects of our body. There's so many things that can impact how our bodies respond to medications, or in this case, natural remedies of things like CBD. The good news is that most people who use CBD don't report any side effects at all. Most people can use it, and as I've mentioned in previous episodes, they feel nothing except better, which is the goal. But some have noticed some things that I want to talk about today so that you can be fully aware. Now remember, there is a very limited number of good studies into CBD out there, and that is because there hasn't been money in it for anybody to do it. Studies don't just get done usually out of the kindness of people's hearts. Most people do these studies. Most companies, whether it be science companies, drug companies, whatever, they do the studies because there's money in it on the back end. They need to prove something works, however they're claiming that it works, so that then they can create a drug that they can make money off of, right? That's how it is. Things cost money. So since CBD has been illegal for so long, there haven't been a lot of good studies. There's only one FDA-approved product on the market that has CBD in it called Epidiolex, which is for epileptics. And so there have been some studies done in and around the area of epilepsy that have revealed what potential side effects there may be. Now, while those studies have been done for the purpose of epilepsy, the side effects could be applied to most people just simply because they're people. It doesn't really matter what you're taking it for, the side effects could still be there. These are very rare, and you're very unlikely to experience them, but I want you to be aware of them nonetheless so that you can make an informed decision. All right, so the first side effect is not going to be a surprise at all because it just makes sense. The fancy word is somnolence. but that basically just means sleepy, maybe really tired. And you'll remember that one of the big reasons why people take CBD is because of sleep problems. So you would expect that it could make you sleepy. The good news is most people who take it regularly and more than once a day don't experience that sleepiness during the day. If you take it twice a day, like I do, then you will sleep well at night, but you will be wakeful in the morning, and that's because that CBD is helping your endocannabinoid system restore the balance that your system needs to have a normal sleep-wake cycle. If you are one of the people who experiences that sleepiness during the day, you can counter that by maybe drinking some coffee, having some caffeine. If you don't already use caffeine, I don't necessarily recommend you start that, but it's up to you. Another way to counter this is to take a higher dose at night when you're going to want to be sleepy, and then a lower dose in the morning so that you don't have quite as much in your system at a time that you need to be wide awake. The next one is a change in appetite. Now, it could go up or down. The THC that you will find in full spectrum products can raise your appetite. Now, remember that the THC should be 0.3% or less, so it's a very, very low amount. So the likelihood that it's going to raise your appetite is very low because there's very little of that there. The CBD content usually has no effect on your appetite, or it might make it a little bit lower, which for a lot of us is a good thing because we might have a few pounds we want to shed, right? Now, if you find that this is a problem for you, a good way to counter that potential side effect is just to take your CBD after a meal. And that is because you will have already eaten, so it's not going to have that impact on your appetite as much because you've already taken care of that. Again, this is not a common one. It's not one I hear people talk about much, but I wanted to make you aware of it. The third one we'll talk about is mood changes. Again, this should not be surprising to you if you listen to the prior episodes, because one of the reasons people take CBD is to help deal with anxiety and maybe some stress issues. Remember the episode about being a stay-at-home mom drowning in laundry? That was episode 16. If you haven't listened to it, you're welcome to go back and listen to it. Remember in that episode, I really highlighted about how one of the first things that my husband noticed when I started taking CBD was that I was not as snippy with the kids as maybe I usually might be. Not that I would ever be like that, right? But that was what he said. He's like, you haven't yelled at the kids all day. And I just kind of laughed. I was like, he's right. So CBD can actually relax your mood some. And that's a good thing for most of us. If it's too much, then again, you just back off on your dose. If it's flattening you out too much or more than you would like, you just back off on that dose. Now, this can be secondary to mixing it with other things like alcohol or caffeine. I did mention caffeine in the last point. So sometimes if you take one of those elements out and just have the CBD, you might remove that element, but it's so rare that most likely you're not even going to experience it. The next one, again, I have never heard any of our customers mention, but I did find it in a couple of pieces of literature, so I wanted to share it with you, and that is diarrhea. And what the belief is about that diarrhea is that if that is something people are experiencing, it's usually a result of difficulty digesting the CBD oil, usually the carrier oil that it's in, not necessarily the CBD itself. So not the impact of the cannabinoids, but basically the way that your gut handles processing it out. If you find that this is a problem for you, I would recommend taking it with food, or maybe just take a different form. So if you're taking the CBD oil and you're having diarrhea, you could try to use vaporizing CBD. Sorry, I misworded that. Basically, you can take the CBD or the hemp bud and vaporize that. I'm not talking about the little vape cartridges that have those oils in them that are awful for you. Not that. I'm talking about just using the bud, putting it into something called a vaporizer, which just heats it up and causes the cannabinoids to become a vapor. That's a way that you can use it as well, or maybe just a topical form. Also, of course, you can always decrease your dose. And we're going to talk at the end a little bit about why it's important to take the lowest dose possible so that most of these things will be eliminated as even possibilities for you. The next one is dizziness. This will come from the THC not from the CBD. If you're using a product that is appropriately labeled and is legal, you should not have a problem with dizziness at all. If you do, it's probably one of three things. One, you took way too much, or two, you're either dehydrated or you have low blood sugar. The combination of those things can cause it obviously to have a stronger impact on your body, just like with most medications when you take them and you're not at your optimal, you're dehydrated or your blood sugar is low, they're going to have a higher impact on you. So the same goes for using CBD oil. So if you find that this is a problem for you, back down off of that dosage or take it before bed. Again, maybe take a higher dose before bed or in a lower dose in the morning. You could also take it with a meal or a snack, as I mentioned before, and drink lots of water as you take it and after to make sure that your body is at its optimal level and that you're not going to have the problem with dizziness. The next one, again, incredibly rare and also a little bit paradoxical because this one is nausea. And when I say paradoxical, it's not what you expect. It's very rare. Again, I've had none of our customers complain of this to me, but I found it in some studies, so I wanted to share it with you. The reason it's paradoxical is because for a lot of people, CBD can help with nausea. So if it causes you nausea, in the very unlikely event, then you would, again, want to take it with a meal or a snack or back down on your dosage. The next one isn't so much a side effect that you're going to notice, but it's something that could be happening in the background that you need to be aware of. If you have any kind of issues with your liver, or if you take medications that your liver is the organ that eliminates, so that's fancy medical terms, but basically when you take medications, the medication has to get out of your body somehow. Usually it's either your liver or your kidneys that are going to do the work of cleaning it out and moving it out when it's time. If you're taking a lot of medications that are heavy on your liver, then this could cause a greater impact in an increase of your liver function tests. Most people are not going to need to have liver function testing done, but if you know that you have a pre-existing situation there, if you've had liver problems in the past, then you might want to monitor it. Epidiolex that I mentioned before, the drug that the FDA has approved for use with epilepsy, does recommend that you get liver function testing done before you start taking it, and then in a series after you've been taking it over the course of the first few months, just to make sure that you don't have an increase in those liver function tests. That would be up to you if you wanted to do that. I personally haven't, but it's always your choice, and I want to make sure that you have all the information so you can decide what you would like to do. The last one is another paradoxical one because it is anxiety. And we know that a lot of people take CBD for anxiety. So have you ever had a kid, or maybe even yourself, who you gave Benadryl to expecting that it would make them sleepy, and instead they got like crazy wild? Oddly enough, it happened to my cat. So I think I'm not sure if I've mentioned this or not, but I was in the Navy. Feels like a lifetime ago, but I was in the Navy and I was stationed overseas. And when I was moving back to the States, I had to bring my cat with me. I'd gotten a cat while I was over there and had to bring her with me. Well, I gave her Benadryl thinking that it would zonk her out and that she would sleep great for the flight. Except for it didn't. It made her crazy cat. I mean, you should have seen her eyes. She just absolutely went wild. It was the weirdest thing. That's what's called a paradoxical effect. It's what you don't expect. So for most people, taking CBD will calm your anxiety and make you feel better. But for a very, very few people, it could be the opposite. And it's thought that this is because of the ratio of the THC to CBD. So if that happens for you, then you would want to make sure that you're looking at products that maybe don't have the THC in them at all, a broad spectrum product, or maybe one that has a lower level of the THC in it, just to change the ratio and try to see if that might be the problem. But again, this is incredibly rare. It's most likely not going to be something that you experience. All right. Now I want to move into a little bit of a different category, and this is drug interactions. Most people do not experience drug interactions, but some do. And this is one that you're really going to want to talk to your doctor about if you're taking prescription medications. Anytime you add anything, you should make sure that there's not any expected interactions between the drugs that you're taking and the thing that you're adding. So in this case, adding CBD. There are a few classes of drugs that is known to interact with CBD. If you have ever had your doctor tell you that you should not take some medication at the same time as grapefruit juice, that is a clue that that drug might be one that interacts with CBD. The reason is there is a certain enzyme. If you really want to know what it's called, it's cytochrome P450 or CYP450. That enzyme is one of the main ones that helps clear CBD from your system when it's time for it to go. Like I mentioned earlier about the liver function test, right? There are things in our body that it's their job to clear these things out of our system. So this enzyme, CYP450, is the one that clears out drugs like corticosteroids, things like Coumadin, and things like grapefruit juice and grapefruit, and things like CBD. So you can see that if you have all of these different things that are competing for that same site to get out of your body, that some of them aren't going to get a ride out of your body. Think of these things as the bus that carries these different elements out of your body, and there's only so many seats on that bus. And so if you have too many things trying to get on those seats on that bus, some of them are going to have to wait. And those things that have to wait are going to end up building up in your system. And that's when you can end up having the negative side effects or the extra buildup of drugs that we really don't want. Okay. So if you are taking medications that you've been told not to take at the same time as grapefruit juice, you need to be a little bit more on guard about taking CBD. You really need to talk to your provider to make sure that they recommend it. You can do some research online for these interactions to try to make sure that you are not taking things that are going to compete for those same spots to get out of your body. One way to be able to maybe take both, and I say maybe because, again, you're going to want to check with your doctor to make sure that your dosage isn't so high that it's going to still be in your body at this time. But you can sometimes take them at different times. So like maybe you take the drug in the morning and the CBD at night, and then sometimes that'll put them far enough apart to where you won't have the problem. But that really depends on the half-life of the drug, which is how long it takes your body to get half of it cleared. Whole lot of technical terminology. I don't want to overwhelm you. I just want to make you aware that this is something that if you are on prescription medications, you do want to do a little bit of research just to make sure that you aren't taking a combination of things that's going to be unsafe for you. Now, be aware that a lot of side effects that you may hear about in this world today can come from synthetic cannabinoids, which have made their way into the market. Synthetic means artificial, means they're not the real thing. They're made by man. They're not the cannabinoids that grow on the hemp flower that we use in our products. These synthetic cannabinoids can cause severe side effects, and they can even lead to hospitalization. So just be aware that you have to be super careful about what you're using. One report that I read is just probably one of the most disturbing ones, is that out of 84 products that this particular study looked at that they had purchased online, only 26 of those products were properly labeled, meaning maybe they said they had more CBD than they did. Maybe they said they had no THC, but they did have THC. Any number of inconsistencies. So it is incredibly important that you use a reputable company that you trust. There are not many companies out there with the level of transparency that we have, because you get to talk to me every single week, or at least hear from me, and you have the opportunity to talk back to me on the SpeakPipe link below in the show notes or through email. You can ask your questions. Several of you have either emailed me or called or left messages, and you hear right back from me. I'm the one you get when you contact us. So you know exactly who you're buying from. You haven't heard from Andrew because he's not really a podcast talker kind of guy. He listens to a lot of podcasts, but he's not one to get on here and talk. But you can go on our website, alararidgefarm.com, and you can see his picture and read about him. I don't know, maybe someday I'll talk him into coming on the podcast too, so you can hear from him. But you get us up close and personal, and you know who you're dealing with. We make everything in small batches, making sure that the product is consistent from bottle to bottle. And we have independent testing on our oils, so you know for sure what's in those bottles. What we tell you is in those bottles truly is there because we make sure. All right. Another good thing that you need to be aware of is all of our new customers, when you first buy CBD oil from us, we send you a sheet with directions on how to get started and how to ease your way into the right dose. Now, this is important because you want to take the least amount that you possibly can to get the results that you want, because that decreases the likelihood of the already low chance that you're going to have side effects. When you take the right dose for your body, the chances are incredibly low that you're going to have any of those side effects we talked about. And on top of that, I don't want you to take more CBD than you need because I don't want you to waste your money. You don't want to take a ton when you only need a little bit to get the results that you want so that your bottle will last longer. So when you first get your very first order, I give you some instructions about where to kind of guess and where to start, and then how to ease up from there to figure out what your dose is. I also came across a website that I wanted to share with you that has nothing to do with us, and we haven't made it. I can't endorse it as far as its 100% accuracy, but I wanted to share it with you as a starting point. It's called CBD And on that website, you can put in why you are taking the CBD, your body weight, and it will give you a starting point and then some different gradual levels to increase to if needed. So that's another resource for you. Now, if you haven't yet, I want you right now to go over and grab that 20% discount that I've been telling you about now for several weeks, because it's going to end soon. The website is bit.ly/CBD and you show. That's bit.ly/CBDandYOU show. Anything that you put in your cart at that link is going to have 20% taken off at checkout. You have all the reasons in the world to try us, no reason not to. You know me, you know our product, and you know how this product is going to work with your body by now. We've been talking about it since November, so what are you waiting on? That special is going away. So I want you to get yours before it goes away. Again, it's bit.ly/CBD and you show. It's going away soon, just like this episode is going away. In 3, 2, 1. I'll see you next week. Whoa, wait, stop. I need your help. Before you take off, if this podcast has blessed you in any way, or if you learned something, could you take 1 minute and leave me a written review over on Apple Podcasts? That's the absolute best way you can thank me. I love hearing how what I've learned on my journey has helped you on yours. Remember that the word says every good gift and every perfect gift is from above. CBD is one of them, but there are so many more. Cling to him and you will never go wrong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you back here in a few days.